Hi, Justin.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have the privilege and honor of interviewing you, and I've definitely gotten to know you a little bit, but I want to give everyone else in the room that privilege, so would you mind starting, kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. The introduction was great. I did have a little scent on Project Runway, but a little background about myself. I went to school at North Carolina State University, majoring in architecture, and graduated in 2004. And after that point, I did a little competition because I was in architecture, but I was not really motivated about it. I was not passionate about it. I didn't know why, because I had two of my favorite things to do, which is art and math. And one of my friends told me that I should enter into a fashion competition. I'm like, why? I'm in architecture. But I decided to do it anyway because it was a different field that I could go into and compete it by making these architectural inspired garments. And in that one-way show, I ended up winning the best of the show. And at that point, I kind of realized I actually enjoy doing this. I wanted to go into fashion. And to me, fashion and architecture is very similar because you're only using different material. Because in architecture, we're creating shelter for people. And for fashion, we're creating garment for people. So in a way, they're both a form of protection from the environment. And after that point, I went to, I'm going on and on now. I went to grad school in Chicago. So I went to the School of Art Institute in Chicago to master in fashion. And I graduated in 2009. And after that point, I just came back to NC State. And I started teaching at State. And Project Runway came along, and now I'm kind of a new designer in the business and learning all the work right now. So I learned a lot from you guys today. So I was really excited to be here. And here I am.
Awesome, thank you. So I think I'm definitely not alone in this room when I say that I've often been asked what I want to be when I grow up. Can you say honestly that when you were maybe a few years younger than us or growing up, did you want to always be a fashion designer? Where did you test the waters, and how did you arrive at this dream of a career that you are living?
That's a good question, because it definitely is something I haven't really thought about it, but now I'm thinking about it. I knew growing up, I knew I was gay at a very young age, but I didn't really come out till grad school. And I remember that was still my mother's fashion magazine, Vogue, and everything hiding into my bed, so at nighttime I could look through them. But I think at the time, I was not confident to follow my passion, so I decided to go into architecture. Because growing up, people have told me, which I disagree right now, but in the past, it's a very masculine field to be in. And I thought it would be a way for me to kind of conceal my true identity. And I thought like that for a long time, and I wish I didn't.
So who were the main role models apart from Vogue? Who else did you look to for inspiration? Maybe publications or role models in the industry?
Role model in the industry, industry-wise, typically there's two role models that I really look up to I have had opportunity to intern for. One is Nick Cave, and he's a celebrated artist. He makes these sound suits, and he does a lot of fabric manipulation and does a lot of performance. And I thought it was very inspiring to see the work that he created. And the other artist that I was inspired by is Alexander McQueen. And I did have the opportunity to intern for him in London for a year. And just learning the work ethic and the amount of work that goes into the collection is incredible. And it really taught me, being a fashion designer is not easy. And being able to see these artists and the work they put into taught me that I have to suck it up and really go for it if I'm really passionate in it.
Awesome. So I think in pursuit of our careers, and what we all plan to do. One of the things that we take away from Duke is certainly the fact that no, there's not always a yellow brick road, and our paths to success and our paths to our careers are not always going to be linear. So in light of the fact that your path was not necessarily linear, what kind of advice would you have to students who might be pursuing non-conventional pathways, who might be more entrepreneurial minded or creative minded like yourself?
Similar to the prior speaker, I think the biggest thing is really getting your hands on everything that you can do. And one of the biggest things is internship. Because being able to go into the workforce and doing an internship really can teach you what you like about it and what you don't like about it. And once you know those things, you can take charge of what you want to do with your life. So growing up, I mean, right now we're at the perfect timing to go out and really get to know all the different career and pathways that you can take. And take as many internships at different companies. They really educate you, again, the right path that you want to be on. So that was the biggest thing that I could take away from growing up.
So speaking a little bit more about the pathway and the road to success, there is definitely, I think that we can all anticipate some roadblocks, maybe some detours. What would you cite as some obstacles or barriers that you've had to face in your career and your ascension to where you are today?
I think one of the most common roadblocks that I've had in my career, since I was born deaf, there's a lot of people that make assumptions about deaf people. And they would ask questions like, can I drive? Can I read? All those basic things. And I'm like, yeah, I can do those things. But,
And then more.
So it made me realize that not everybody has exposure. So it's important for when I meet new people and if they have not met anybody like me, it's an opportunity for me to educate them, to tell them about my culture, to tell them about my language. And it's very challenging, but it's also rewarding. So just making sure you know your background so you can tell the people in your story.
So I think we have maybe a little bit of a good idea now of who Justin LeBlanc is, but I think we all also want to know a little bit about what is Justin LeBlanc. We know that you have your own style, your own design. So could you speak a little bit about that style, about that unique design that you have developed and has become so quintessential to who you are?
So for the brand I'm working for, there's three components to it. And the three components kind of represent who I am as a designer. The first component, which is probably the most obvious component, is 3D printing. With my background in architecture, I've learned how to use the tool of 3D printing. And at that time, it was very common to do 3D printing in architecture. And I decided, why cannot we do it in fashion? And going on Project Runway was the opportunity for me to do 3D printing for the first time. So I was able to make all of the accessories through 3D printing and be able to convey my story. I'm wearing a 3D printed bow tie right now, and one of the models is going to be wearing a 3D printed necklace.
We appreciate the bow, given that our organization is bow. So thank you. Yeah.
The second component is the fabric manipulation, which briefly was presenting the introduction. I'm known for using unconventional material and just really create textile out of something, out of nothing. And this is something that I've always been fascinated with, and I'm a very visual person, so I really like textual element in garments. And again, some of the garments that I've made tend to be out there, but again, we only live once, so you can't just be out there all the time.
What is the most out there material that you use? One of the more out there materials. I know I saw a dress that's coming on the runway in a few minutes and it has zip ties. It's made of zip ties.
I think that probably would be the most out there garment because not only I had to make zip tie, but I had to use construction fence. at the garment and just build from there. So
I don't know if our model knows that she's wearing that, but
and the last thing that represents the design is the niche of local made goods. And I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina since I was 5 years old. And I've known the history about the textile mill and the industry that we have here. And in the past couple of years, there's been a decline, especially from the recession that we just had. And many of the textile mills are struggling to keep up and kind of come back into the industry because we have so many competition. And after being on Project Runway, I decided to need a platform to promote local made goods. Because I think it's very important to really focus on the business that we have here and see what we can make. And I just find it to be very exciting because there's so many incredible companies in North Carolina that I didn't hear about till 2 years ago. And it's all about the collaboration and working with people that are very passionate about what they do. And I'm passionate as a fashion designer, but I need material. And it's great to go out there to see people who create these gorgeous textile and be able to incorporate it into my collection, which kind of reflects to the other look that we'll see today. And she has a wrap on, a little black dress. It's all made in North Carolina. It's quite exciting to see what we have here as long as we look for it.
so is that part of the main reason why you're staying in North Carolina, or do you ever have the urge to hop on a plane to New York, maybe Milan?
I'm a homeboy. I decided to stay in North Carolina because one of the exciting things about the fashion industry, everything that you find could be found online. And the way that we communicate through iPhone, through Facebook, through Instagram, there's a lot of ways that we can get the word out. And to me, I feel like we're at a stage right now where you could be in any city that you want to be in, as long as you have an iPhone or a laptop. Then you could do no business from there. And I think the interesting transition going on right now is something that I'm learning these days. Do you really understand how the audience respond to social media, television, and so forth, and learn how to harness that power and take it from there?
Awesome. I know personally one of the things that I am so attracted to about the fashion industry is the degree of sensitivity that there is in the industry. And I know it has not existed apart from all of the advancements in technology. I mean, you are wearing a 3D printed bow tie. I'm not so sure anyone in the 1920s saw that coming. But what other ways do you see technology maybe changing the industry now or in the future? What are your predictions?
It's kind of relating to the answer about the social media and using the online platform and so forth. I mean, at this point, many people are ordering things from Amazon and get it in 2 hours. So there's a lot of speed going on right now, and that could be related to the technology. And one of the things that I can see happening in the future is, I'm a fan of 3D printing. And the more that people get to know 3D printing and the possibility that it has, I would not be surprised if there's a 3D printer in every household within 10 years. Because at that point, maybe you can go online and then just, instead of clicking order, you click print, and then get a product. So there's a lot of things happening right now that could be really fascinating. It's just a matter of how to tie it back to the tangible object. And I think the challenging thing about 3D printing is it's essentially printing out of nothing. And that's kind of intimidating because we want to be able to touch it, see, feel it, make sure it fit, and so forth. But there's a level of trust that goes into it. And the more that we learn about the technology, the more that we're willing to step off into that direction and see what happens.
It's a challenge, but a good one, I think. And along the lines of speaking of challenges, I know you had to face many in your experience on Project Runway.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us maybe a fun story or experience from Project Runway that maybe we haven't seen?
There's so many challenges in that show.
But I heard you did pretty well, so.
There was one challenge. I don't want to take all the night. I think one challenge that I had on the show was...
Maybe your favorite piece that you created on the show? Anything in particular?
I think my favorite thing I created on the show was the unconventional challenge. Again, I like using unusual material. And one of the garments that I made it out of pipette tip. And if there's any scientific in here, it's those things that can kind of transfer into speaker and so forth. So I just put on about 14,000 pipette tips.
14,000?
14,000 by hand.
Do we have that many at Duke? I don't even know.
I don't know, I had to order it, like...
Probably depleted our stock.
Probably. But that was probably my favorite piece on the show. You know.
Awesome. So I want to hit at kind of your experience in the fashion industry and being a male in an arguably female-dominated industry, on the buy side at least. What has that experience been like for you? Has it been challenging or more exciting? If you could just talk about how that experience has been.
Being in the fashion industry is a collaborative effort. Because myself, as a designer, I know how to create clothing and so forth. But how do I market it? I don't know. So it's always a team effort. And the one thing about my business, which I love, my mother is actually my momager. So this is my manager. So there's a lot of battle right there. But she definitely has been there for me every step of the way, and she definitely, I consider her to be one of my role models. And going back into the fashion industry, the designer had to listen to what people want and what they need. And for my aesthetic, I try to keep that in mind and hear what they are saying, because I primarily make women's wear. I always keep in mind what they need, what they want, and usually the first person that would tell me something is my mother. So it's always good to hear what she needs, and I probably didn't even think about it. So again, it's a collaborative effort.
And she's always right?
Most of the time. Always.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can say the same about our mothers. I definitely feel that way. But I kind of want to wrap up in talking about your experience with female role models. Now that you've brought up your mother, in your mother and any other women who you've worked with in your career, what kind of qualities or characteristics have you noticed about the most impactful women who you've worked with?
I think the bit of quality that I admire, this kind of goes back to my mother, and is the ability to speak from the mind, like be able to stand up for what you believe in. And there are people that will to degree and that kind of thing, but make sure you know what you believe in and be able to back it. And my mother is a lawyer, so she always had the resource to back everything up. And she's a very strong woman, and that's something I admire about her.
I'm sure she admires plenty about you in return. Thank you so much, Justin. This was incredible, and we're so happy to have met you. Please join me in thanking Justin.